Hey again, guys. Episode what? Episode 14. Episode 14. Here we're preparing the frame. And the last one we were preparing the frame for receiving the body. Now we're starting to get into the structure, how we're going to fill the holes that exist on the frame, start the plating process or the boxing process, and removing some of the unnecessary stuff, keeping the other stuff, some welding, some fabrication. Take a look at it. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, tell your friends, do everything that you need to do to keep this coming. Comment, 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 comment. That's how I learn. Hey, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Here we are again. Here we are again. Midday, well, not quite noon on a Sunday. Successful weekend. I am bolted down in the factory locations. Factory stampings in the floor. Factory holes in the floor. That 1/4-inch bolt right there and that one right there are actually factory holes. They were tapered head screws that held the wood spacer that went in here. Of course, now I've got a tube spacer in there, metal, and we'll get a look at that a little bit later. I'm not going to lift the car up. I've got it off the lift right now. But anyway, everything welded and mounted flat to the floor. The result was using the original cowl mount, about a 1, maybe a little better than a 1-inch drop. You can see the holes for the original mount. But so it's channeled 1-inch in a manner of speaking. Now I can work on, closing it back out. Not a big deal. And starting to mount the suspension. So I want to get the front fenders mounted on, get them located, get them mounted. I stuck a 27-inch tire, again, just a trailer tire, but 27-inch diameter tire in the fender well. Try to take a look at about where ride height would be. And so now I'll hold this up right at my eye level and walk up to it. So, I can see clearly it's just below my chin is the roof line. So I'm thinking that's still just a little bit high. Still wondering if I go, but that windshield will get so small, but still wondering if I'm going to do that. I can maybe get another inch or so out of that, but I want a comfortable ride. So this will all be 4-link. I'm not going to use the leaf springs on the front or the rear. This will be independent. I don't know if I'm going to do Mustang 2 or fabricate it. I don't know yet. Got a lot of holes that I'm going to wind up filling in, and then of course closing out and capping the interior side of the frame rail. But there'll be a lot of work on the frame, but for me, that's fun work. So anyway, long and the short of it is, I've got the chassis under the car mounted with every single mounting bolt except for the cowl, of course, except for the 2 cowl bolts. I'll have to remake those brackets. That's not a big deal. Coming along. Well, we've been making some progress. As you know, everything's all set down and bolted directly to the frame. No isolation, every mount bolted down to the body mounts. Every mount touching, body mounts on the same plane. So everything's flat, everything's straight, that kind of thing. And all the cast and suspension hanging mountings have been removed. And then here I'm just sitting in here and plugging the holes. I'm going to leave this top set until I get the fenders kind of figured out. I got those sitting around here somewhere, and I think I'm going to start to work on that piece of it. I've determined that this hole is going to be the center line. I'll reference and measure for both sides, but believe that that's probably the factory hole because I hung the leaf springs sitting right there. Found the center point on the leaf springs. So I believe that's a good reference, but I'll check it against several other locations on the body, or on the frame rather. I'll check it against several other locations. That being the case, I will establish the location of my fender based on that center line. If I need to adjust it, I'll adjust it on both sides. So at this time, I want to close out where the other suspension pieces were. The steering shaft went through. You can kind of see a hint of the plugs. One there, and then one there. There's another one there. And then I just filled in the holes that were, say, 5/16 or smaller. I just welded those, filled those. So both sides are done now, and to the same mirror image holes, with the exception of this side had the steering hole in it, and that side did. Anyway, bringing the strength back into the frame, and then start boxing it out. I did find, allegedly, I found a 331 Hemi. 53, so it's with the bell housing, so I'm doing a bunch of YouTube videos to find out my options on that. So thus far they're looking pretty good. Of course, I do have access to a machine shop and can make stuff. So, but at this point, the plan is to figure that thing out. Friday I go to look at it. If it's good to go, I'm buying it on Friday. So 1953 Chrysler 331 Hemi. Not going to be a barn burner, but it's going to look cool. And that's what this is all about, as far as I'm concerned. A good quick drive, nothing, not a pussy. But at the same time, it's going to have some flair. Now, remember, I was at a highway cruiser, so this one, my intentions still are to fuel inject, make it an easy start, runner, that kind of thing. So I'll have to rebuild the engine and all that, but more later. Well, here's the project of the evening. I took off the rear body mounts. There's a hole there, right there. And I welded in the nuts on the back side. You can see right there's one. The other two are up higher. And then if you recall, I had these mounts right here and right here, and then a little set screw and a set screw, and those held the wood up. And those I transferred into here and here. So I welded a nut onto the edge, relieved it out a little bit, welded a nut, drilled a hole, welded a nut on the bottom, and then those are the through holes for the body. And that was 1x1 tubing, and I had to block it up 3/16 7 gauge on the back. It had to sit flat on the front, and that's what got it to sit flush with the body. All other pads sitting on the frame. So what I'm doing now is I'm boxing it out so it looks like it was stamped out of the frame. So here I've welded 18 gauge to the top corner of the 1-inch tube and welded it down to the edge of the frame. I took a couple of pieces and I tapered them downward. See, this comes straight and then she tapers downward and then folds in to the chassis, and then I'm welding and finish grinding those off on the front and the back. A little steeper arc here, a little gentler one there. And on this side, I'm starting some of the finish work. On that side, you can see I'm welding, and I just started to grind. I had oil on the frame, and so it outgassed, and so I'll have to grind it, and there will be touch-ups. This is my first weld pass. See, So I've got it, once I finish grinding it flush with the top side, I'll have touch-ups to finish it out. But basically the end of the story is to make it look like it was stamped out of the frame. And here, if we get a pretty good close-up look, we back up just a little bit. So if I sight with the frame, you can see it comes on and then twists as it goes up to the front and comes on. There's a little bit of hammer on dolly right there. I can see it. But this isn't ground anyway, so that could just be a weld bead. Anyway, yeah, those are just welds sticking out. But on this side, he tapers down, slopes out to the frame, and same thing. He's steeper here and twists up more gently there. Probably where it's welded, because there isn't that much grinding, you can get a little more prominent view of it. But see how vertical it is on the bottom side and how she starts to taper in? Well, anyway, when it's finished, it'll look like, should look like, you know, these were stamped up out of the frame, even though from underneath you'll see the frame. But I'm just starting to work on some of those. Then I go to work on the grinding the welds on the body drop. I did get in there with a hole saw and finish out these holes. So once I dropped it, of course, that top portion of the hole overlapped the bottom. So I got the appropriate sized hole saw and cut those out of there. So now we just go in and we're going to start getting all the doodads attached to it. And before I start leveling the frame and doing the cross member and the forelink, I figured I'd get the frame as touched up as much as I can, probably get in and clean it up. So there's what we got. That's the frame, body just sitting on the lift above it. And I'm working on that right now. This enables me to dry fit, you know, go up and down another 100 times before I'm done. Making sure everything's working out, making sure everything's going smoothly, and we'll go from there. The reason why I stopped on this stuff here is that I ordered the radiator grill, because the radiator grill will support the fenders on either side and keep them positioned correctly front to back. Of course, I can measure off the body on the back side, but I can get them on there. I did establish the center line that I found for the axle is indeed the center line for the front fenders, or will be the center line for the front fenders. So everything is coming together as planned. More later. Well, here we are again. I got these all finished out. Spritz them with primer so they don't flash rust. Never know how long you're going to be doing this stuff, right? So that's that and that are the 1/4 inch holes for originally supporting the wood, but I'll plug the hole in the floor, you know. And then the mounts right there, both sides finished out. They look really nice. I mean, they'll look nice on the frame, and even though nobody can see them, they shine up really good, and they meet my expectations. So for this, I think I showed, but I just wrapped it and welded it up, and so a through bolt can go down through. Moving right along, I mentioned that I took a hole saw and made those round again, and now today I'm gone in and metal finished the edge. So that looks like a formed piece. It is overlapped because, see, I dropped it 9/16 of an inch and then it's overlapped. This piece is, trying to remember, is underneath this piece. So I, of course, I seam welded it, and then I went in and ground it, but I built the weld a little bit to make it look like one piece. And then I still have to clean this side up and straighten it out, but I have done a significant amount of work on this side, cleaning it up. A little more radius on the top, and then a little sharper on the edges. I might radius these edges a little bit more here. I don't know. and then I'll clean up the inside and start moving that way. Typically I do it in pairs. I'll do this one and then I'll do that one, because you're concentrating on a finite area, and you tend to get a better match if you work that and then work that. Even when I did this, I worked that and then came into the center. And then I got all this mess of a step, which will radius and radius. Metal finish this side. I know you won't see it when it's all mounted up and stuff, but you know what? It's just those extra details that people look at. Of course, the bottom side you'll see. So after I finish this out, I'll flip the frame over and do the process over on the bottom. Anyway, coming along, I did get the grill. Came in yesterday. So that allows me down here, right? That gives me my fender spacing to get back on this project and finish up those fender braces and find where everything lands. So that's kind of exciting for me. Everything's going good. Got a mess to clean up on the floor. I just chip away at it each day. Try to get a couple hours in, 2, maybe 3 hours in. And just keep working it. Of course, once I get everything kind of settled on here, I'll have to decide at what point I'll sandblast the frame. Thing is, when you sandblast, you want to get something on it, so to protect the metal. So one of the things that I've always did throughout the build on that is to do all your welding. Clean the metal off where you're welding, and then get all your mounts and stuff on. So I still got the front and rear suspension. There might be a little transmission crossmember mount, engine mounts, blah 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 blah. So I probably still have a little bit of time before we get to that stage. Anyway, this is the report for the day, and we will go from there. Later. Good day to everybody. I finished the underside. Of course, the side that nobody's going to see if I put a tank in here. If I don't put a tank in here, everybody will see it. So, needless to say, finished it out. Got all the radiuses cut in, and then on the inside cuts, and then all the outsides just a light radius. So I did not, since this section is on the inside of this section, I ground it flush. You can see my tack welds. I mean the locations of the tack welds, but at the same time it actually looks quite nice. I did have a very nice bead on there anyway, so I just flushed it out and left the bead on. So I wasn't going to try to blend that. I'd have to stack welds up and chamfer it, and realistically, there's a point at no return, and there would be no return on that. So that portion is done. But I did notice as I got the flame flipped over, the axis, that's that first welded body mount, the axis to the body mounts becomes extremely good for me. So I'll finish welding up the nuts for the body mounts and carry on. So next phase is again, I'll certainly go in and then X out the frame. I have measured it a couple of times, and it looks really good, but I'm welding on the back, so now I'll X it out to make sure that it's straight and true. Weld a few pieces of bracing in, and I'll begin cutting off the cross member and prepping the inside rails and stuff for the front suspension. So that is where we're at. Alrighty then, you can see here that I've used some BFS to exit out. That's a bed frame structure. And I love those bed frames because, number one, they're free. And number two, they're very rigid. They're very brittle. But I had to put a quarter power across that side to push this leg forward to get my 99 and 5/30 seconds. It was 3/16, but I had to tweak it a little, but 99 and 5/30 seconds X across two holes in the frame. I am dead parallel and dead straight now. Everything, the frame is leveled, shimmed as appropriate to level the frame. It's level throughout and straight. Hello, it's coffee, which means it's the morning. You can see here that I'm starting to cut out starting to mock up the inside boxing of the frame. In this area, I've got this little relief here. So my feelings are that this will be a nice channel for wiring or fuel lines, those kinds of things. But it happens to be on both sides, so I'm going to take advantage of an opening where I can still come in with a piece of material. So I have structure, I'll weld this down into here, weld it to here. The top piece will cap over it so I can get brake lines up there, fuel lines and other types of things in there, but I'll have plenty of gap, plenty of distance there. I don't know how much that is. I don't have a tape measure, but it's a good half of an inch, maybe better. And now that I'm talking, yeah, it's better than a half of an inch. Focus. It's better than a half of an inch, so that's good. But I spent yesterday going in with vinegar and trying to remove as much of the mill scale as I can. But I think at this point I'm just going to blast it. It does work good. You can see there's the rust. It's just on the surface, whatever. It'll come right off. But I thought that would be an effective way to go to bed and come back and, that kind of thing. Well, it's not. It's not. So it does help substantially. If I give you a picture of this side with the scale and the rust, and then a picture of this side, hit it with a wire brush. I mean, it really does a good job of getting that off. But so does sandblasting. If I can't get back to the original shiny steel, then I might as well not throw in the towel, but go over and sandblast everything. So anyway, I'll pull the body brackets off and take the stands outside or build a tent inside and blast it. At this point, I'm mocking up that so that is identical to that. I had to shave. You can see the cut mark, the shiny. So I held a square and traced the top rail to the bottom rail. I traced the top rail to make the bottom rail match the top rail in the profile. And it wasn't a lot. It certainly wasn't a lot. You can see some excess material here and that kind of thing. And this is where the screwdriver is hanging in to hold the light. That's the center line of the front suspension. They're going to be on this, so you can see the reason why that dishes and flattens out. And in here, where is he? There's the, let's see, right here. She tops out right here. If I go to the other side, she tops out right there. Okay, suspension hole is, I'm going to put my finger in it right here, right on this surface. So the tape would be the front leading edge of it. Oh yeah. The cop they have profile, and this is where the front suspension goes, right in this area right here. So Coming along.